The Gadget Hovel TODDCAST, video edition. Oh, episode, episode number, let me bring up my, I don't know. It's video, okay, so, you can see me. You don't need to know what episode number it is, because of reasons. Well, this is 238. No, this is 239. Episode 239. Welcome to the Gadget Hovel TODDCAST. I am your host, Todd A. Sullivan from www.gadgethovel.com. And here with me, from the Skippity Skype studio, is my co-host, Tau Battlesuit Man. One of my newest WarHammer models. Wow. I am particularly proud of this guy. This guy is cool. This is the reason I play Tau. Giant battle suits, giant mechs like this. And let me just show you one of the things I'm most proud of here is his magnetic gun. Now, a lot of times I worry what kind of gun should I glue onto the model, because once I glue a gun on, it's kind of permanent. But in this case, for a big, expensive model like this, I have, thanks to the technology, advanced technology from the alien Tau, I have of magnetism. We can change the gun out. So, whichever gun I end up liking better, I can use that. Or if I want to use one gun for one fight against a certain type of opponent, but the other gun is better in another fight, I can swap them out before the game. It's pretty cool. So anyway, I'm very proud of that. And I've talked about that Tau model on the show before, but it's not the same as being able to show it off in the pictures. So that's one of the many reasons I like doing the video podcast. Oh, fooey. Okay, okay. These, there we go. These pictures behind me, on the wall behind me, are it's artwork from The Power Principle, an independent webcomic that everybody should go check out. If you just Google Power Principle, I think you can find it. And I don't know if they're going to stay on the wall for the whole show. But oh well, that's them. They're cool. It's a cool comic. Let's see. Let's start off, since I've already started talking about the WarHammer stuff. Let's start off with WarHammer. So a while ago, I got to play a couple of giant WarHammer games, one with Robert and one with Enrique, right before my vacation ended. So against Robert, I played with a combination of Imperial Guard and Space Marines, and I had a bunker that my brother-in-law gave me for Christmas, which was awesome, and gave me the only terrain on the entire table was that bunker, because Robert hates terrain. And so Robert's gigantic Tyranids battled a new tank that I had just painted, and the rest of my Space Marines and Imperial Guard in an epic battle of probably 2,000 points apiece. We didn't even count. And I won. I beat his bugs. Woohoo! And then later that same week, Enrique and I played a game where I got to bring my Tau and my brand new gigantic battle suit that I showed you earlier with the magnetic guns and everything. And we played a game of 2,150 points apiece, and we were going for control points. So his entire army of Dark Eldar, fought against my Tau in a battle to control flags, basically on the table, which was a lot of fun. We don't play that kind of game very often, but I always enjoy it when we do, because it's about controlling like fortified positions and claiming flags and then holding on to them with ground troops. It's a different strategy than just trying to kill everybody on the other team. So I really enjoyed that one. Enrique beat me, probably because of his secret weapon. He had a commander pretending to be on my team, but I think he was secretly a double agent. That little general who was supposedly assisting me, I think he was actually helping his dad. But anyway, it was another great game. They were both fun because, these gigantic 2,000 point games are epic. I mean, when you have an entire table covered with models, airplanes, tanks, gigantic robots, flying units, and infantry like crazy, it just makes for a really epic and wonderful, war feeling. Oh, yeah, we're recording. Hi, hello. Um, so, by the way, I forgot to mention, if you're listening to the audio-only version of this, you can go to my website or go to my YouTube channel, the Gadget Hovel. Just search for Gadget Hovel on YouTube, and you can watch the video of this on YouTube or through my website. It's still YouTube, but it's posted on my webpage. Or if you just want to listen to the audio, that's fine, and then you don't get to see all the cool pictures that the rest of the viewers got to see, and you also don't get to see my beautiful face, which, frankly, that's your big loss. That's your biggest loss. So, anyway, Warhammer, those epic battles are fantastic. They are time-consuming, though. I mean, one of the reasons I was able to do it was just because it was my time off, so I painted a ton of stuff on my vacation, and then I was able to play with Robert during the weekday, because I was on vacation, and Robert has a weird work schedule, so we were able to play all day on like a Wednesday, and Enrique squeezed in pretty much an entire day on Saturday. So, it takes a long time to play those big games, but it's very satisfying, and I feel like it's really worth it. Although usually we play games that are more like 750 or 1,000 points, and those are fun too, because there can be there's strategy, a little more excitement involved with the smaller games. Not only do they go faster, and so it's easier to find time for them, but when you lose a guy, when somebody dies in a 2,000 point game, it's maybe not that significant as when a guy dies in a 750 point game. Every individual unit and model becomes a lot more important in a smaller game. But, so anyway, they're both fun, The giant battles are fun, the smaller battles it's all great. I love Warhammer. Which, since I now have a Tau army my Tau army is bigger than Robert's Tyranids or Enrique's Dark Eldar. So since I have the largest Warhammer 40k army of my friends who play, I have time to waste my time building Lizard Man army. Oops. It reflects the plastic reflect. Okay, so there we go. That looks better. But yeah, so now I have time to paint a Lizard Man army. They came out with a whole bunch of new Lizard Men units a little while ago. They've been rebooting the armies, new instruction book, new models, and I've always been interested in the Lizard Men. And so when they did the refresh and they came out with it's lizards riding dinosaurs. That's awesome. And Matt and my sister Carrie are coming up to Alaska, and they want to play Warhammer Fantasy. So it's not completely ridiculous. I may actually have some people with other fantasy armies to play with. Because the Lizard Men are for the Warhammer Fantasy. I can't play my Lizard Men in the Warhammer 40k games that I play with Enrique and Robert. Their armies are 40k. So that's why collecting a fantasy army has been kind of a silly idea, but, I'm ahead. My Tau army is ahead of everyone else, so I don't need to paint more Tau models to keep up with my enemies right now. my opponents, I should say. But yeah, so I can relax and just kind of paint whatever Warhammer I want. I'm not needing to keep up with them. So the Lizard Men look cool. And you know what? I bet if I ended up with two Warhammer Fantasy Armies. I bet I could talk Enrique or Robert into commanding my other fantasy army, one of the two fantasy armies against me in a Warhammer Fantasy game. My best guess is they would be okay with that. I'm sure Robert would if I collect a dwarf army, because Robert loves dwarves. You've never seen his wife, but his wife is basically a dwarf. She's very short, hairy feet too. But and my sister's collecting a dwarf army, so if she maybe she'll let Robert borrow her dwarf army one of these days. Who knows? Anyway, so that's what's going on in my Warhammer world. I had some fantastic epic games, giant games, and got to play with my new models, and Lizard Men are next. Another geeky thing I did this week was played a card game. I believe it's a deck building game. I think that's the genre that you would put it in, but it's a Race for the Galaxy. I talked about it in last week's show. I talked about Race for the Galaxy in last week's show, but now, thanks to the wonderment of video and to camera being on my iPhone, I can kind of show you. So this is Race for the Galaxy. Watch this. I have to find where's the button to stop. Hello. Okay, so we are playing Race for the Galaxy, and I'm playing with Enrique and LaDonna, but their faces are not going to be shown because they're terribly ugly and they don't want anyone to see what they look like. So the first thing we're going to do is we each play a card to determine what we want to have happen. So I'm going to do, don't tell the others what I'm doing. I'm playing this card here, which is out of focus, but who cares? Okay, so I lay down my card. And, okay. Now let's flip over our cards. So I've played Explore for Phase 1. Enrique's played Phase 5, which is Produce. And LaDonna has also played Phase 1, just like me. So this turn we'll do one phase of exploring and one phase of producing. So let me see. I don't have, so I'm going to draw 3, and then I'm going to discard 1 because that is my bonus as a person who did the exploring. LaDonna is doing the same thing, and because Enrique did not play Explore, he's only going to draw 2 cards and only keep 1. So I'm going to, so you at home can see my hand, and this is the one I'm discarding because of reasons I won't say out loud for fear that my opponents will hear my incredible strategies.
I have my 1 to discard.
And LaDonna has just discarded 1. Do you want to say hello, LaDonna?
Hi.
I'm not sure how good the microphone even is, so you could probably curse and stuff, and it's probably not even going to pick it up. Okay, so we've done the exploring. Now we're going to produce, which means
If you have a card like this with a circle, and it doesn't have a glowing halo like this one does, and there's nothing on it, you can put a good on it, which just means taking a card off the deck, putting it on it.
all right, and then if somebody played or next time plays a consume phase, then we can spend the goods that Enrique just got. He could spend those goods to play consume cards or to buy
Victory points or other cards.
Okay, so all kinds of things. Okay, and then at the end of the turn, I have.
Here you go. You need to put a good on this one.
I have a planet that I can produce. Okay, yeah. Hey, look at that. So there. So now Old Earth has produced a good. So I have 3 planets that have goods on them now. And
I've gained no victory points. LaDonna?
I'm gonna record LaDonna's goods here. Get her goods on the YouTube.
Thanks. Yeah. I don't think I didn't do anything. So no.
Yeah.
I can't even
No, all I did was draw cards, so no victory points for me either.
All right.
All right, and then we'll go on to the next turn. So that's basically how you play the game. So I really enjoy Race for the Galaxy. We played 3 games of it last night, and out of the 3 of us, we each won exactly 1 game. So that's kind of nice, you know. I feel like it's a really well balanced game. It's a little complicated. There's some rules we're not quite clear about, but honestly, all of our geeky board games are a little complicated and have some rules we're not quite sure about. We've had some epic discussions about the rules in Munchkin and some other games. You know, anytime you have a competitive situation, you're going to have that. But it's a lot of fun. The cards are beautiful. It's got this great science fiction edge that I love. I just love that genre. It's a fun game. Race for the Galaxy. It's like Dominion, but science fiction-y. Good game. All right, so that's the geekiest thing I've done this weekend yet was playing Race for the Galaxy with Enrique and Ladonna. But tonight, probably as soon as I finish recording the show, we're going to play Dungeons and Dragons and going to record that, and that'll go up as a podcast at some point when I stop being lazy. So this is actually the last day I'm drinking caffeine. I'm going to try to give up caffeine again, so enjoying my energy drinks and coffee today while I still can. Especially since we're probably going to be up till at least midnight playing Dungeons and Dragons. So that's always good times. But it's also a good reason to have a little caffeine and then give it up. Also, I should say that I got a haircut, Mom. So you're welcome, or thank you, or I don't know. Mom said after she saw the last video, TODDCAST, she said I needed to get a haircut. So there we go. My hair is cut. I have also eaten all of my vegetables, and I've made my bed. So I hope it's okay that I play D&D with my friends now, Mom, because I've done all my chores. All right. I've also so after that, it's just, you know, it's time for video games, right? So let's talk about video games. And I've been playing Minecraft. I put up a YouTube video of me playing Minecraft, so, you know, I'm not going to show footage of Minecraft here because there's a whole, like, 45-minute YouTube video already of me playing Minecraft. And actually, there's a second one that I recorded, and I'm going to post it pretty soon. I've got a backlog right now. I've already got one D&D podcast that I have to post. I'm going to record another D&D podcast tonight. I've got a YouTube Minecraft video that needs to post that I've already recorded. And of course I'm doing this, which is another thing. So I'm very good at recording the podcasts. I'm not so good about posting the podcasts, actually uploading, putting them up onto the website. I'm good at making stuff. I'm not good at sharing it, I guess. Anyway. But yeah, so there's a whole plethora of podcasting and YouTube video-y goodness getting ready to come at you as soon as I get off my lazy butt. So let's talk about the video games I've been playing that are not Minecraft. And let's start with a brand new one. The only brand new game that I have to talk about today, and it's not really new, but the newest game, and certainly new to me. We'll start with that. The game is called Don't Starve. It's been out for a while, but I haven't played it until just this last week. And I really don't know entirely what I'm doing in this game. I'm certainly not an expert. So basically, you're an old-timey, like black and white era dude from 100 years ago or something, and you create some kind of invention or something. You're an inventor, you're a scientist, and you end up being thrown out of our world, and you're plopped down in the middle of a wilderness in a world that is similar to Earth, but is not exactly Earth, and there's no cities or any civilization that I found in the game anyway. And so you have to survive, and the first step, as the name would imply, don't starve, you have to get food so that you will not starve. But, actually, starvation was not my biggest problem. See, when it gets dark in this world, it doesn't just get dark and you lay down and take a nap. When it gets dark in this world, there's monsters. Apparently, there are terrible beasts in this land that hate sunshine. And as soon as it gets dark, if you don't have a light source, if you don't have some kind of a fire or torch or something, you just frickin' die. Monsters just come out of the darkness and eat you. So, actually, not starving is good, but not keeping some sort of light handy is more important even than the starving, I think. So maybe they should change the name to Don't Go to Sleep in the Darkness or something, I don't know. Anyway, obviously, there's a bit of a Minecraft feel because you're in the wilderness and you're trying to survive, and there's actually quite a lot of crafting. There's a lot of just gathering resources and stuff at first, but then there's a lot of things you can build with the resources. So I've heard people say that it's like Minecraft on survival mode and that kind of thing. Because you're in the wilderness being hunted by monsters, which apparently only come out in the nighttime, and you're gathering raw materials to build stuff. That all sounds, on paper, very much like Minecraft. But my experience with it is it's not at all like Minecraft. It's a perfectly fun game. It's a great game. But I don't like the Minecraft comparison, because in Minecraft, you can, with the blocks that you harvest in Minecraft, you can build whatever you want. I've seen people build replicas of the Enterprise in Minecraft. You can build buildings and cities. You can build boats and ships and castles in the sky. You can build anything, really, out of those blocks. Don't starve. You can only build things that it's programmed to let you build. You can build a campfire if you have these ingredients and combine them to make a campfire. You can build a trap if you have like a snare to trap animals for food so you don't starve. If you have these specific raw materials, these specific ingredients. So you don't get the kind of playing with Legos feeling that you get in Minecraft, where you can just build whatever you feel like. But you can build a lot more than I unlocked at any rate. I didn't barely scratch the surface of the game. But it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. I need to learn more about it, because I figured out a lot on my own. I figured out how to set traps and put them on rabbit holes. And then later on, I could come back and check the trap and get a rabbit. And there's probably a way to cook the rabbit, but I apparently just ate the rabbit raw, which I guess that's okay. Eating raw rabbit is not what ultimately led to my character's demise, so that's cool. This game there's some kind of race of somewhat sentient pigmen, which is interesting. I mean, that's one of the biggest things that said to me, this is not Earth. Also, the scary eyes that appear in the darkness and kill you if you don't have a light source. That's also very un-Earth-like. So, it's interesting. It's kind of fun to be in a world that is similar to Earth, so that you can say, well, if I want to build a fire, I probably need to chop down some trees and get wood, Or if I'm looking for food, snares for rabbits or picking berries would probably give me food. It's close enough to Earth that you have some idea of basic survival ideas, but it's alien enough, it's foreign enough that you're constantly being surprised by things like, shadow beasts that come out of the darkness to eat your face off. That's very surprising. And just learning how the world works, and like the fact that you can add fuel to a campfire. It took me a long time to figure that out. For a while, I was just building lots of new campfires over and over and over again before I realized, oh, you can just throw more wood on the first one and just keep it going all night. That's cool. The fact that you can light trees on fire when you're holding a torch. That makes sense, but it's also kind of a surprise. Especially when you light the tree on fire and then the fire hurts you, which, again, makes sense, but it's surprising. Another thing that's surprising is when you do finally get to daylight and there's a shadow beast chasing you. And he never goes away, even when he's in light. Even if you build a campfire, the shadow monster will walk right through the campfire and keep trying to eat your face. I think maybe the shadow monster came out and murdered me because my sanity level got really low. There's food, sanity, and I don't know, something else in this game. And I figured out how to keep my food up, but I wasn't so good at keeping the others up. And that's when the shadow monsters came out. So I don't know, maybe the shadow monsters just come out after a certain amount of time, or maybe it's because I went insane. At any rate, in Don't Starve, I did not starve, but I did get eaten by a shadow beast. So maybe call it Don't Get Eaten by a Shadow Beast game. Although, I had a lot of fun. Don't Starve is a total blast. The art style is interesting, and it's cartoony and old-timey, and the sounds are old-timey as well. It's creepy, but also kind of cheerful and silly, and it's a lot of fun. It's it is a survivalist game, and it's also got a Robinson Crusoe kind of building things, rebuilding civilization. And I don't know, maybe ultimately you get to build a machine that brings you back to your regular life. Maybe you come back to Earth. I don't know. I haven't gotten that far in it, but yeah, Don't Starve. It's a lot of fun. It's on Steam. I don't know. It's like $15 or something. So check it out. I've also gotten into. I've also started replaying Torchlight 2 for the first time again. Torchlight 2 is one of these games that is great, and it was fantastic. And I never really made enough time for it when it was brand new. I played it for a little bit. But, it came out so close to Diablo 3, and I really enjoyed Diablo 3. But they're very similar. So I think because I had already been invested in Diablo 3 and played it so much and whatever, I never really gave Torchlight 2 a chance. So now I am. Again. So Torchlight 2... I've played it a little bit with Matt and my sister, but lately I've been mostly playing it solo. And so the character I've been playing solo is the engineer, who gets to do a couple of things that I really, really like. For one thing, he gets to use the cannons, which are these big old two-handed guns. And they have a very... everything about the engineer has a very steampunky feeling, including his gigantic cannon that he carries around and can blow people up with. It's it's pretty slick. He also gets pets. Everybody gets one pet who can fight a little bit and who can bring your loot back to town to sell it for you. And when you send a pet back to town, you can also give them a shopping list so they can buy potions and stuff. So they'll come back with the profits from the stuff that you had them sell, and they also come back with the potions and things you told them to buy. So that's cool. But the engineers also get to have other pets. They get to summon a pet that heals them, and a pet that runs around and has a turret, and all kinds of other little pets, which I love. I love that very much. They also have, aside from the cannon specs and the pet specs, they also have a set of specs for, I should say specs, so, like talents, for a talent tree. They also have one for using giant two-handed hammers, I guess, that are often in the form of like a giant wrench. And the two-handed hammer is also very cool. It has a neat little animation. It feels like it's very big and heavy, and when you use some of your powers with it, you create fun little explosions that fly out across the land from the point of impact, and that's fun too. It's a lot of fun. The hammer's fun to go after big groups of people with because you get a nice AOE. Well, I think the cannon does that too. The cannon may do an AOE anyway. I don't know. Anyway, the cannon is my favorite. I play with the giant hammer, the giant wrench thing once in a while, but I love the cannon. It's very Diablo 2-y. The Torchlight 2 reminds me of Diablo 2 more than Diablo 3. You've got 3 talent trees for every character that you can put points into and unlock things further down the talent tree, just like Diablo 2. And you've got stats you can put points into strength or vitality or whatever, just like Diablo 2. So in a lot of ways, this feels like the sequel to Diablo 2 that people wanted Diablo 3 to be. Because there was a lot of complaining about Diablo 3. My friend Abel loved Diablo 2 very much, and he is completely unhappy with Diablo 3. It really disappointed him. And some of his complaints were that you didn't have the talent trees, and you didn't get to spec out your talent trees, and you didn't get to spec out your stats like strength and charisma and stuff the way that you did in Diablo 2. And he felt that that was essential to customizing his character. Diablo 3 just gives you all of the abilities and stuff. When you get to this level, you get this ability. If you are this class, so if you're this class and you get to this level, and you get this ability in Diablo 3, and that's all there is to it. Torchlight 2, if you're this class and you get to this level, here are your 3 different talent trees, and this is how far you are in each of them, and knock yourself out. Pick any talent from any talent tree, assuming you've met the prerequisites, and that's exactly how it was done. So, I really feel like Torchlight 2 it's a fantastic game. It has multiplayer now. Torchlight 1 did not have multiplayer. Torchlight 2 has multiplayer. It has everything that I think fans of Diablo 2 loved and felt like they got like they were missing in Diablo 3. So yeah, if you liked Diablo 2, if you were unhappy with Diablo 3, Torchlight 2 is the game for you. Now, I liked Diablo 1, 2, and 3. And I like Torchlight 1, and I like Torchlight 2. So I don't know what that means. Maybe I'm not as discriminating. Maybe I don't have the discriminating taste as fans of Diablo 2 did. Maybe I'm just not as picky. Maybe it just means, I like liking things. I don't I don't know what that means. Well, I don't know. There's a lot of things that I don't like. There's a lot of things that I get grumpy about, so I don't know what that says. But Torchlight 2 I think is a big win. I love it to pieces. There's fun boss fights, there's fun talents, fun abilities. The graphics are great. The graphics are kind of cartoony. But I think that we've gotten used to games having kind of cartoony graphics, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Diablo has more serious graphics, especially if you look at Diablo 3. Diablo 3's graphics are very dark and gritty and serious. They're not cartoony and silly. Everything about Diablo 3's ambiance is serious. Torchlight 2's graphics remind me a little bit of other Blizzard products like Warcraft and World of Warcraft and Warcraft 3. It feels that kind of cartoony. And of course, the original Torchlight 1's graphics were very cartoony too, and this is exactly like Torchlight 1's graphics, just slightly better. So, I don't know. I love it. My sister loves it, and Matt loves it. Matt loves it, and they've been playing it multiplayer and been having a lot of fun with it. Every time that we get together to play multiplayer, Matt, Carrie, and we've really been focusing on Borderlands 2. So, unfortunately, we haven't had time to multiplayer it up in other games like Torchlight and so many other multiplayer games. We've just been focused on Borderlands 2. But I think Carrie is done with Borderlands now. Mostly just because it gives her terrible motion sickness. Or, I don't, is motion sickness the right word when there's not actually any motion? I'm not sure, but anyway, the point is she plays Borderlands 2 and it basically goes, "Oh, I love it. This is so much fun. Oh, this is what a great game. Okay, I'm going to vomit on my keyboard now and take a nap." And that's not fun. I think no matter how much you like a game, if it makes you throw up, eventually you're going to get a kind of Pavlovian response going where, you know what? It's not fun anymore because of the vomit. So anyway, I totally understand that. But we've had a lot of fun in Borderlands 2, and Matt and I went ahead and beat Borderlands Vanilla. I talked about that last week. And that's been fantastic. But I think Carrie is probably ready for a new multiplayer game for her and Matt and I to do. And there's so many choices, but I think Torchlight 2 should be in the running. Carrie, if you're listening or watching this, I'd like to put on the table Torchlight 2 as possibly our next big, all three of us multiplayer game, because it's really, really wonderful. Now, and I've told you already that I love the engineer class because it gets pets, and he gets to carry a gigantic two-handed cannon around, which is a lot of fun. But of course, there's a wizard class. I forget what they call it exactly. It's like I don't know. Torchlight 2 has a story. The first Torchlight was all about going into this mine. It revolved around Ember. Ember is a material. I don't really understand the story that well. Ember is a material that is in a cave and people mine it, and it's magical. Ember has magical properties, and Ordrak in the first Torchlight game went insane or something, because that's what Ember does. Ember is magical, but you can also get like addicted to it, or it makes you crazy or something. I really don't know a lot of what the storyline is, but anyway, so there is a character class in 2, and I think he was in 1 as well, that is an Ember mage, I think. Anyway, it's a wizard. You know, it's dressed up in all of the lore and the world building and stuff that they've done in the Torchlight mythos, but it's a wizard. Okay, that's that. let's just call a duck a duck, and this duck is a wizard who uses Ember to cast magic duck spells. So there you go. Anyway, I would love to play that character because I love wizards in all shapes and forms. And it was a real toss-up between that guy and the engineer. But I also love engineers. I've said recently I've done some comics about who would you be or who do you most identify with out of the Star Trek universe? And I've said I would like to be Geordi LaForge. Geordi LaForge is my favorite character from Star Trek. He's cool, but he's also relatable, and he's an engineer, and he plays with the engines, and he's a nerd. And so I love the engineers, and I love Geordi LaForge. I know I'm not LaForge, although I do wear glasses, which are kind of like his visor. But no, I know I'm Barclay. Unfortunately, I would be so addicted to the holodeck. If we had that technology, I would give up on human interaction altogether, and I would just live in the holodeck with my holographic friends. And that sounds great to me. And I don't know, maybe that's unhealthy. But anyway, he's definitely who I am. But yeah, so I love engineers, and obviously I'm a nerd, and I love science and technology. Oops, okay. There was a little hiccup with the recording there, but I think with the recording the audio anyway. But I think I'm back. So anyway, I was just saying I love engineers, and everything in Torchlight 2 that's engineering is steampunky. And steampunky has never been my favorite thing, but I do like it. And what's funny is I think that I'm liking steampunk more and more as time goes on. But anyway, so the steampunky engineer in Torchlight 2 is very appealing. but the Ember Mage was very appealing too because I love wizards and I love magic, and so I am all up. Carrie, Matt, if you're out there, I would love to play another character in Torchlight 2. I would love to play the Ember Mage, and I'm probably not going to play a second Torchlight 2 character, not very far anyway, by myself. So I would be perfectly happy to just have the Engineer be my solo character and also play an Ember Mage in a multiplayer game. There's some other character classes too. I don't know, somebody with guns or something. I think there's a Berserker, a big melee. I don't know, whatever. I saw Engineer and Ember Mage and a bunch of other stuff. And the other stuff was not interesting to me. There's also a bunch of mods for Torchlight 2. And because it's on Steam, you can get the mods for Torchlight 2 through the Steam Workshop. That's what they call it, yeah. And which makes it so easy. You just go to the Steam Workshop, you subscribe to a mod that looks cool, and it's all set up and installed automatically. Which it's so simple. After all the hoops that I have to jump through with Skyrim, some of the Skyrim mods were a real pain, were a real pain to set up. And they were cool and everything, but some of the Skyrim mods were really difficult. And Kerbal Space Program has a rich modding community, but also it's kind of a pain to set them up, because you've got to do everything kind of by hand. So it's really refreshing to go into Torchlight 2. And there's lots of games in the Steam community that use the workshop. But it's really refreshing to go into Torchlight 2 and be able to just say, subscribe, boom, that's it. That's all I had to do. I just found it, I hit one button, and it's ready to go. So I've got one mod that's like a whole bunch of mods in one. It's different pets and all. I don't even know all the stuff that the mod does. But it's really cool. My pet in Torchlight 2, my companion, is actually Claptrap from Borderlands. And I don't know if he's an actual... I don't know if it's the mod that makes Claptrap a playable pet, or if he's just part of the game. Because I haven't played vanilla. I've had that mod since I started my character. But anyway, Torchlight 2 it's absolutely fantastic. If you like Diablo 2, you're going to love Torchlight 2. I'm having a blast with it, and I'm really going to try to beat Torchlight 2. Okay, so yeah, I'll beat Torchlight 2 as long as I don't get distracted by other... Oops. As long as I don't get distracted by other games. I'm gonna really try to stay and beat Torchlight 2. Speaking of other games, the one other game I want to talk about this week is... well, it's my dirty little secret. It's my... I don't know. Guilty pleasure, I guess you would call it. Yep. It's the game that I love, and I don't know why. I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed to admit it. I'm embarrassed to admit that I even play it. But I've already admitted it. So I guess I might as well just go ahead and say it. I love The Sims. The Sims 3, to be specific, I guess. And I've got a couple of the add-ons. For example, the Pets add-on and College Life, because apparently the College Life add-on lets you be a blogger. And a couple of them. So the thing about The Sims 3, or any of the Sims, I guess, is that it's about people and social interactions and, all that stuff. But it's also about architecture. It's about getting to build buildings. I almost never have my Sims move into a pre-made building. I like to build them myself, to build them from scratch. And that's a lot of fun. But after I started building houses in The Sims, I started noticing houses out in the real world. And one of the things I noticed is that when I build houses in The Sims, I almost always make them perfect squares or rectangles. Not necessarily perfect squares, but they're always perfect rectangles. They're just boxes, and I think they're nice houses. I think rectangles and squares and boxes are a very efficient use of space. You just make one big rectangle and put lots of small squares and rectangles inside of it to make up specific rooms. And, it's an efficient design, and I think it would be a nice place to live, but it's kind of boring when you look at it from the outside and you realize all it is a box. And I was perfectly okay with that. I thought my houses looked just fine originally when I looked at them from the outside. Until I started looking around at other houses and just driving down the street, looking at houses, and I started saying to myself, why do all these houses have funny little bumps and corners, and why aren't they all squares? like the houses that I design. Why aren't they all perfect rectangles? Why do other houses have these weird little columns and, I don't know, weird non-four-sided shapes? Because that's not how I design houses. And so I've tried to challenge myself to design houses, to build houses that are not perfect squares. To try to build houses that are not only more realistic, but are more interesting to look at, I guess. I guess that's why people make houses that aren't perfect squares, is because they're interesting to look at. So I've tried to challenge myself to build houses that have, say, triangles, or floors that are different, that extend out over the bottom floor below it, or have decks that are not completely symmetrical, and, putting garden gnomes for no good reason. But, houses that are not perfect cubes. That's what I've challenged myself to do in all three dimensions, to build houses that look cool and are functional, but are not just big boxes. And it's difficult for me, because while I see the appeal in designing a house that is a funny shape, it's very inefficient to have a triangular section of your house. What do you do with the triangle? There's no room. It is an inefficient design. You can stick a dining room table in there, but the walls are all at funny angles. The table's really close to the walls on one side and far away on the other. I don't know. I've tried several different designs of houses that are not perfect squares. Sometimes they're still fairly symmetrical, but I try not to, I don't know, I try just not to make a perfect box. And some of the designs I've come up with are interesting and enjoyable, and I like them. There's other interesting architectural components that I've discovered in this game too. I really like windows, apparently. I like big windows that you can see in and stuff like that, or more importantly, see out of. I don't want people seeing in, but I want to be able to see out and get sunshine and stuff. But there's more to The Sims than just architectural design, of course. You've got people, and they need to exercise and work out. They need to, consume food, which means cooking and eating, barbecuing, and sometimes having people over, sharing a meal together. Sometimes they're shy, and they get their food, and then they walk away, and they don't want to eat with you. You've got some pursuits that are very appealing to me, like astronomy. You can get a telescope, and you can have your character do astronomy. You've got all these skills that you need to level up, and I think astronomy levels up your logic skill. So, that's obviously a lot of fun. You can have Sims read. They can read books that teach them things that'll help them at their job, or just read for pleasure and enjoyment. You can even build an arcade in your house, and, and your Sims can play video games. So, aside from the architecture, there's something very appealing about creating a house that has telescopes and arcade games and nice little reading areas, and the idea of creating a little family or group of friends who has meals together and eat together. And, there's and of course you can fill houses with a bunch of really hot women. So, So there's an element of wish fulfillment in creating a kind of idyllic world. Although you still have to do things like clean litter boxes and take out the trash and stuff like that. I really like the pets edition, which is where cleaning the litter boxes come from. But the pets are really cool. They've done a really good job of creating the animations and the art for the pets. I think the pets are really cute and adorable. The video game, the computer in this shot here is one that I downloaded. There's tons of stuff to download for The Sims. That's supposed to look like an Alienware computer. They have some generic computers that are built into the game, but you can download so much stuff. So there's free stuff that people, schmucks like me, have created that you can download for free. They also sell a lot of things you can download with like microtransactions. I swear. That is how they're making money on The Sims, is by selling you tons and tons of add-on packs and DLCs and microtransactions and things, which is a good business model, and I'm sure it's making lots and lots of money for them. But it can be, if you're not careful, you can end up spending a lot of money on The Sims. But like I say, there's lots of free stuff that you can download that just regular people have made. But yeah, here's some people in a hot tub. Skinny dipping in the hot tub, so that's that's fun. And here's somebody brushing a cat, which I love the animations. The animations for brushing the cat are pretty cool, and all of the animal stuff looks pretty realistic. Sometimes it's hard to get the camera lined up right, but I think think they did a great job with the animals. Of course, when you have Sims that are skinny dipping and stuff, they blur it all out, so you never see any naughty bits. I think there is a mod to unblur the naughty bits, but I haven't installed that. That would just, I don't know, that would be weird. That would be weird. Besides, I have it, so my hot chicks are usually pretty scantily clad anyway, so that's fine. Ironically, when they put up the blur to cover up the naughty bits, they're usually showing less skin than when they're clothed and just wearing something revealing. Anyway, gosh, as I'm looking at this footage, I realize that a lot of it has to do with animals, or people skinny dipping, apparently. No, I do. I have apparently recorded a lot of footage of the animals. So I guess I like architecture and animals, maybe not people so much. This is revealing. Of course, sometimes my Sims do the mushy romance stuff, and that's kind of fun, especially when it's the nerd wearing glasses who's flirting with some gorgeous hot chick. So maybe that's more of that wish fulfillment stuff again. Oh, that could be. But the having the people interact can be kind of fun too. And you've got your regular run of the day stuff, like maybe you're going to be late for work, and so you've got to hurry to or maybe they're just going to walk casually. I don't know. Anyway, you've got to go to work. And that's part of it, right? Like, I like the architecture and the design. And in order for your Sims to make enough money to design interesting houses or efficient houses or whatever you want to do, your Sims have to get jobs. And they have to learn skills and practice skills to get promotions at their job. They have to be in a good mood. Apparently, if they're not in a good mood, they do poorly at their job and they don't get raises. So you need to do things to keep them happy and to keep their mood up so that they can work hard and get raises. And they need to practice cooking, so if they're a chef or something in the cooking field, so they don't burn the food. But also they need to get better at cooking because eating good food improves their mood. And like I say, if their mood is good, they'll be better at their job because they'll be happy and cheerful and able to work harder. So you've got all these things. You need to improve their athletics, their logic skills, their whatever it is they do for a living. All of these things need to improve so that they can make more money, so that you can design cooler houses and buy them Alienware computers and and all of those things. So it's all tied together, When I play, there's usually a phase of designing the initial house, which is on a very tight budget, and you're trying to meet all the bare necessities as cheaply as you can. And then there's a long phase of playing The Sims and having them do their jobs and interact with each other and make friendships and establish, a life. And then eventually they get promotions and raises and better jobs, and then they start making a lot of money. And then you can go into a kind of a third phase where, okay, now that they've established their income and they have a lot of money, now you can make renovations to their house. You can add on extra floors, redesign things. You can make things a lot fancier and nicer after they have a lot of money. And I guess that goes hand in hand with real life. You get out of college and you're poor, and you go out into the world and you live on a tight budget, and then you get raises and promotions and stuff, and then you have lots of money and you get a nice house. So I guess that's a thing. Now, in Sims 3, by default, your Sims do grow old and eventually die. But honestly, I've never played a household long enough for anyone to die. I tend to get to a certain... After Phase 3, after they get a lot of money and I make renovations and add-ons and make a really nice house that I think looks cool and everything, and they've got a lot of promotions and whatnot, I kind of start over with a new group of people. And so that's something I'd like to do. There's a whole... and sometimes you have to unclog a clogged toilet, There's all the regular stuff. It's not all wish fulfillment. Part of The Sims is just doing boring, mundane stuff that you have to do in real life, too. But yeah, maybe something I'll try to do in The Sims down the road is... Because you can have generations. You can have The Sims have babies. The babies grow up. Their parents grow old and die. The babies get married and get jobs and have babies of their own. Maybe it'd be fun to go through a couple generations like that. So that might be what I do next. I don't know. Are we recording? Yes. Okay. So there you go. There's The Sims. It's silly, but I like it. I like the architecture and design. I like interacting with the pets, and every once in a while, I like interacting with the people as well. I like designing, houses that I would like to live in that are filled with arcades and computers and hot tubs where the smoking hot female roommates can go skinny dipping. So it's a fun game. It's relaxing, more than anything else. It's peaceful. I enjoy running around in Torchlight shooting people with my giant cannon. And, as much as the next person, but sometimes it's nice to just, I don't know, cook a nice dinner and exercise and then go to bed before you go off to your job as, I don't know, author the next day. Actually, I did have one character who never got a real job. At the beginning, when they were super poor, they went to the library every day and used the library computer for free to write a book. And doing that, they wrote a few books. And fortunately in The Sims, when you write a book, it sells and makes money. You don't have to worry about your book getting rejected like you do in the real world. And they got to a point where they had several books published that they were making money from all at once, and they actually made a pretty decent living doing that. The only problem there was I couldn't just say go to work and then they go away and I play with the dogs or whatever the other characters until they come home. With that, I had to actually kind of follow the Sim to the library and kind of had to make sure that they kept working on the book, because otherwise they'd wander off and start reading books or chatting online, which, trust me, I've worked from home. And that's a temptation in the real life too. So anyway, it's fun. It's a fun game. It's my guilty pleasure, I guess. I don't know, whatever. I've also been playing a lot of Animal Crossing, but I didn't have a really good way to record any footage of Animal Crossing. I tried with my iPhone and holding the 3DS, and I guess it worked. Okay. Anyway, that's okay. We're at the hour-long mark for this episode anyway. So, and I'm supposed to be playing Dungeons & Dragons with Enrique and the gang in exactly 2 minutes. So this is time to sign off. And, I hope you enjoy my second experiment with video podcasting. Thank you and good night.